Hey there, what's up everyone on YouTube? How's it going? Today's Memorial Day. I hope you had fun today. And your boy Big B's back with another one. And here's what we're going to talk about a couple things today. One of them is doing things out of anger and letting your anger get the best of you. And the other one's about being the person you were needing when you were hurting and not the person who hurt you. So first off, let's talk about the anger. Oftentimes, people on the spectrum or people with any other type of disability, their emotions are pretty strong. And part of it's because of the way their brain's wired, and part of it's because of how much they go through. And oftentimes they do things out of anger, and they let their anger get the best of them. And then they do things that they shouldn't do when they let their anger get the best of them. So here's what I want to talk about. About a year ago from now, I kept seeing posts on Facebook that said something like, "Don't ever do anything out of anger. It'll always end in shame." And at the time I was going through a lot, like just problems at home, like just certain people mistreating me, a lot of people leaving me when I'm hurting, and things like that. I start getting really angry and overwhelmed about it. It's like all the people who did that hurtful stuff to me, like unfriend me or whatnot, I'd start hitting them up and just being really rude to them about it and letting my anger get the best of me. Like one of the people who unfriend me, I hit him up and I started off with, "Hey, I saw you unfriend me. I'm pissed about that." And he left me, he wouldn't open my text. Then I texted him again and said, "Boy, if you keep leaving me undelivered, come on, I want to talk about it." Then he left me on scene, and then I blew up. I told him something like, "You know what? F you, why don't you go F yourself? I'm pissed that you unfriend me. Why don't you walk a mile in my shoes? How would you feel if you were going through this or that and everyone left you when you needed them the most?" And I didn't handle it very well. And I'd see those posts that would say, "Don't do anything out of anger. It'll always end in shame." And I thought to myself, yeah, right. These things I'm doing are necessary. I'll never feel ashamed of doing this. But recently I've been thinking about what I did to all those people who unfriend me a lot. And I've been starting to feel ashamed about how I handled it. And I'm really thinking about hitting all of them up and apologizing to them for the way I handled it, and talk about how if I could go back I would have handled it better. I talk a little bit about my situation, about how I'm autistic, the things I've been going through. I just let them know that would mean a lot to me if they would be by my side again. I feel like that's probably the best way to go at this point. So what I have to tell you is, if someone's ever angering you, and you think if you let your anger get the best of you, you won't ever feel ashamed, I promise you eventually you will. Whether it's 6 months since you did that or 10 years. Eventually you'll start feeling ashamed about it. So, here's the next thing we'll talk about. Being the person you were needing when you were hurting and not the person who hurt you. It's here's some good ways to do that. If you're ever going through a moment where you're having family problems, maybe your dad keeps yelling at you and screaming at you and getting really mad at you because you're not doing what he wants you to do. and then you start feeling really depressed about it. This is just an example, but you start feeling really depressed about it. You start feeling really negative about it. And then you start being a downer about it all the time. Maybe complaining on social media about how things are going for you or whatever you do. And people walk out of your life. If that happens to you, then choose acceptance, understanding, and love and support for other people going through that same situation. Or if people judge you for being who you are, once again, choose acceptance and understanding for people who maybe do things differently, or just anyone who's different from you. You get what I'm saying? So the thing I want to talk about with being the person you were needing when you were hurting, a lot of people mistake that concept. Like, a lot of people think the right way to do it is to give advice to people who are hurting that stigmatizes their situation. A lot of people think that's the right way to do, or like say hurtful things to them. Like, they might not realize they're saying hurtful things, but really they are. So those two things I just said about actually being the person you were needing when you were hurting, that's the right way to do it. Like, here's an example. One time I was posting a lot of things on Snapchat, such as, one of the things I post was, anyone who contributes to people committing suicide, they need to be held accountable and punished. Then another post I made was, I'm gonna say it, if you get offended because someone's treating you badly, it doesn't make you a snowflake. I understand that feeling of when it happens so much and you get to a point where you can't take it anymore and you start acting out because of it. So therefore, it doesn't make you a snowflake. I said a couple things like that. And when I said the thing about the people contributing to suicide, this one kid replied to my story and said, no, suicidal people are responsible for their own emotions. Suicide is selfish. He was saying stuff like that. And then at one point he said something like, it's not the world's job to make sure they're not hurting anyone's feelings. And then when I made the post about when people treat you badly and you act out, it doesn't make you a snowflake, he told me something like, it does make you a snowflake. He said some other stuff, and then what he said at the end of that text, he told me, grow up. I got really angry. I screenshot what he told me. I was saying stuff like, let's make this MF hurt. I was saying things like that. I was just getting really angry about it. And then at one point I found him on Facebook and I lost my crap towards him. I told him, walk a mile in my shoes. Why don't you try living life with my brain before you start doing this and that? I told him F you like 15 times. And I got really angry. Then he told me something like, hey man, I was just trying to help you realize that you're in control of your life. And I forget what else he said, but then he also said something like, I'm sorry if my words were too harsh. Now at one point I told him something like, I appreciate you trying to help, but telling me grow up doesn't help, it just makes it worse, that's all it does. And then I also told him, and you have to be the person you were needing when you were hurting, and not the person who hurt you. And he told me, I was being the person I was needing when I was hurting, but it just went right over your head. So that's why I gave this explanation about how being the person you were needing when you were hurting is mistaked a lot, and the right way to do it. So, I think that'll wrap it up for the video. thank you for watching. I hope things are going well for you. I hope I can grow a huge community to help get my name and word out there. And if you subscribe right now, thank you so much. Much love for you. And yeah. Have a good one. Thank you for watching.